Welcome to Dark Vows, the Trial of Thomas Randolph. Dive into the live courtroom drama as we bring you unfiltered audio from one of the most riveting trials of the year. Accused of multiple marital murders, Randolph's fate unfolds before us. Join us as we navigate the testimonies, the tension, and the truth behind the headlines. This is Dark Vows.
All right, we are back on the record in C-250966. Bell versus Thomas Randolph. Please record for Mr. Randolph, President of the Attorney, Deputy District Attorney on behalf of the state. Do both parties step into the presence of our jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Judge.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad nobody got flooded out and wasn't able to make it tonight. I was a little concerned about you guys yesterday. All right, we are going to pick up where we left off on Friday. State, you may call your next witness.
I'll call Toby Maldonado to the stand.
You do solemnly swear the testimony about this action to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Please be seated. You can state and spell your name for the record, please.
My name is Toby Maldonado, Toby Maldonado.
Mr. Henry, whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. Sir, what do you do what did you used to do for a living?
I was a police officer with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
Okay. How long did you spend with Metro?
29 years.
All right. And when you retired, what position were you within Metro?
Police sergeant.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about your background. Where did you work throughout your career over the 29 years?
Most of my career, probably 90% of it, was in the field service division, which is basically uniform. So
Okay.
basically patrol, and then I focused a lot on the training aspect of it. So we trained all the academy recruits in field training to get them ready to go out on patrol.
I want to turn your attention to May 8th of 2008. Were you working on that day?
Yes.
Were you working as a patrol sergeant on that day?
Yes.
And were you called out to 6517 Rancho Santa Fe Drive, a 911 coming out approximately at 8:44 and 54 seconds?
Yes.
All right. I'd like you to, if you could, explain to the jury, when you arrived as a patrol sergeant, and they've heard that it's a shooting call. When you arrive to a shooting call, what are some of the basic responsibilities when you first get to that scene?
Immediately, we want to try to find any kind of victims or witnesses and try to determine where the crime occurred, if there's a crime, and then try to, render aid to anybody that may be injured or then secure the scene and wait for, depending on the call investigative services or medical or whatever's necessary at that point.
Okay. And when you arrived at this scene, what were some of the basic details that you had either coming over the radio or when you immediately arrived there?
We received information that there had been a shooting at the house on Santa Fe Drive, I think, or wherever.
Rancho Santa Fe?
Yes. And that the homeowner that his wife had been shot by a suspect, and that the homeowner had shot the suspect.
Okay. So your understanding is there's 3 people inside of the house?
Yes.
Okay. When you arrive, how many people are there initially?
Just one.
Okay.
Like outside the house, the victim or the person reporting was there.
And you're talking about civilians, is that correct?
Yes.
You said just the one. I'm now talking about police officers. So how many officers start to arrive?
When I got there, there were probably 2 or 3 other patrol cars already there.
Okay. At that point, had anyone entered the residence at that point?
No.
All right. Who makes these sort of calls at this point? Is there a chain of command about deciding about when you enter, when not to enter, things like that?
That would be the ranking officer on the scene, and in this case, it would have been me.
All right. So tell us what happens. You arrive on the scene. There's 2 or 3 patrol cars there. What do you do at that point?
As I remember, I didn't speak to the person reporting there. Somebody had gotten some basic information about what happened, and then I put together either a 3 or 4 man team to go in and check on the house and check on the person that had been shot inside.
All right. I'd like to, let's see if I hit this button before we get going. I want to, before I throw anything over here, I want to approach this case 1 and 2. Does this look general? I know this is a long time ago, but does this look familiar to you?
It does a little bit, yes.
Okay. And what does it remind you of?
The house where the call occurred.
Okay. So when you arrive, is the garage door open or closed at this point? When you first get there.
As I remember, the garage door was closed.
Okay. I'm publishing 1. So it's closed. So you don't. So you said there were 2 or 3 or 4 of you, right? How do you enter the home?
We basically just form, and it's called like an element. 1, 2, 3, 4. You go into the house, and everybody has a responsibility, like who opens the door, who does this, who does that, and then we basically go through the front door and then just start conducting a quick search for any victims.
And this is kind of goes back to what you were saying at first, trying to identify any victims and potentially kind of secure a scene.
Yes.
Okay. So you enter through the front door. What do you remember observing that catches your attention?
As we walk through, I remember one of the officers, Mike Mitchell. He was the first one through, and there was a female on the ground that had been shot. And as soon as we saw her, I asked him. I said, "Is she alive? Is she breathing or anything like that?" And he's like, "No, she's gone."
So when you say him, who is the him that you're
That'd be Officer Mitchell.
Okay. So he gives you an indication that, in his opinion, that she's gone by this point.
Yes.
Okay. Does she appear to be moving at all?
No.
All right. Are you familiar with a term called clearing a house?
Yes.
What is that?
It's clearing a house is basically where you just go in a systematic manner, room to room to room of the home, and you check it. Depending on what you're doing, if it's not a search warrant, you're checking for bodies, or you're looking for victims or possible suspects at that point.
Okay. You had mentioned that you had heard over either radio or through a briefing that the homeowner's wife was shot by the intruder and that he had shot the intruder at that point.
Yes.
After locating this woman, do you take additional steps at that point in time when you're doing that first walkthrough to go find the intruder?
You can, but I made a decision at that point, and this is in the midst, and I remember in that time period of the late, like 2008, 2009, the department had made it, they were making a very good effort to try to avoid any kind of police shootings. Okay. So could we have gone in the house and cleared it, maybe encountered the suspect? Probably, but I decided at that point, look, there's nobody else in the house except maybe a suspect, because we didn't know where the suspect was.
Okay.
So I decided, let's just leave the house, secure the house, and call for the SWAT unit to come and clear the house.
Okay. So when you walk in through the front door, you guys find the female wherever she was located, right?
Yes.
And then you make the determination, we're stopping now, and everybody exits.
Correct. Yes.
And the entryway was the front door, not the garage.
Yes.
Okay. So you make a decision to bring in SWAT.
Yes.
So how does that sort of unfold? Does SWAT go into the house next, or does something different happen?
Well, at that point, you basically you secure the home from the outside. You have officers on the perimeter, and then you just basically wait for the SWAT team will always come out with an investigative unit, like a detective or whoever, and then they will put together a plan, and then they'll make a tactical entry into the home.
Okay. So I'm assuming more and more officers are arriving as time is going by, correct? These officers, though, at this point in time are standing outside the perimeter of the home, not going inside.
Yes.
And at this point, is the garage door still closed?
Yes.
All right. So what happens with SWAT? Do they actually go inside this residence?
As I remember, SWAT never came out.
Okay. Why not?
It was my lieutenant at the scene. He decided that the house could be cleared with the officers that were already present, that we didn't need to wait for SWAT.
Okay. So they may have been called to the scene, but they ultimately the SWAT team does not go through this residence.
Correct.
So all those feet never make it inside that house.
Correct.
Okay. There's been some talk about possibly a canine unit coming out. What do you remember about the canine unit?
I remember the canine unit cleared the garage when the garage door opened. The K-9 unit went in with probably 2 or 3 other officers.
Okay.
And he announced that, hey, there's a suspect's in the garage and he's deceased.
Okay. And then where else do they go?
If they were going to, I didn't see them at this point. I just, I'm already a couple of houses down. So
Okay.
but I knew that they had gone to the garage. And at that point, they probably do a room-to-room clearing of the home.
Okay. Do you recall whether or not the K-9 unit goes into the backyard part of the house?
There may have been more than one K-9 unit, Sarah, because I remember there was a K-9 unit in the backyard.
Okay. All right. So let's do this. Are you familiar with what's called like a CAD log or an incident recall log?
Yes.
All right. And you've reviewed that in advance of coming here, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. I'm publishing what's been marked as it states 325. So what do we have here in the middle here? What is this?
I can't see that.
Oh, you can't see it. All right. Well, how about this?
Can we turn the monitor on? There'll be a monitor right there.
Okay, thanks.
Maybe that'll be better.
All right, thank you.
Sergeant, is it easier to see on the monitor there?
yes.
Okay. So when we look in the middle here, what is this indicating?
So that's the address of where the incident is occurring.
All right. And this long number here on the left, what is this?
That's the event number that's generated by the computer to keep track of all the calls.
And is that generally the time when the call was received, 2045?
Yes.
Okay. But if a 911 call said it was 2044 and 54 seconds, you wouldn't dispute that, correct?
Correct. Right.
Okay, 6 seconds difference, right?
Yes.
All right. So if we look here at 8508, what's the time here?
2045.
And can you read that out?
It says PR's wife shot and PR also shot suspect.
What does PR stand for?
The person reporting.
All right. A minute later, there's another entry here. What does this say?
Wife possibly shot in head in hallway. PR shot suspect in the garage. Unknown if still there. Mike, unknown last name, BMA.
Okay. 2 minutes later, at 2047, can you please respond or read what it says here? And
Okay. PR's advising the suspect is still in the garage. Unknown if he's 419. That means dead.
okay.
Requesting to be transferred to medical for advice for the wife.
All right. A minute later, can you please read this entry here?
Where at exactly?
Sorry, I apologize. At 2048, if you can read this entry here, it's 3 lines.
Okay. Suspect is known to PR, has been scamming him. Suspect is laying in the garage, not moving. PR locked door, so suspect is locked in the garage. PR just took the male's 413 away and is now in the residence with him.
What does 413 stand for?
A gun.
All right. 2049, that's a minute later. What does this entry say?
PR set the phone down. There's an open line with PR saying Sharon and crying.
Okay. A minute later, what is it saying here?
PR advising wife doesn't have a pulse. FD giving CPR instructions.
All right. If you could read at 2052, what does this say here?
3x3, that's the unit call sign.
Okay.
Have homeowner open garage.
All right. And at 2052, what's it saying here?
Male advised to open door. And then it says the LL means that they're landline. That they're using a
Landline phone?
Yes.
Okay. At 2053, what is it saying here?
3x7, any other units, stop traffic.
So what does that mean?
Generally, they're blocking off the street to prevent cars from driving in front of the residence.
Okay. I want to look at this entry at 2057. So this is approximately 12 minutes after this call has started. Please read out what it says here.
548, not able to clear residence safety, request SWAT.
Who is 548?
That's me.
Okay, so that was your call sign on that.
Yes.
So what does that mean? Is that essentially what you were saying, that you didn't clear the house at that point and you're requesting SWAT?
Right. We didn't have any information where the suspect was in the house. So we didn't know if he was barricaded, if he was waiting to ambush us. And at that point, knowing that the wife, that the female wasn't alive, there wasn't like a pressing need to clear the house immediately.
Okay. So at the same entry time, it's just the next entry, but it's still at 2057. Please read out what it says.
Hearing units clearing residents while landline.
And it says 27//. Is that a reference to the dispatcher or?
That's probably the console that she's using, the 27.
Okay. 2 minutes from that at 2059, what's it say here?
305 has shield if needed.
What does that mean?
305 is the lieutenant. That's Lieutenant Alba, and he did have a ballistic shield in his car.
All right. At 2101, what's it saying here?
548 have SWAT standby.
Okay, that's you again, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you're giving another instruction for SWAT not to go into this residence.
Or to not, or actually, like they weren't even there. So I was just telling them, look, they're at that point. Lieutenant Alba had said, look, we can clear the house ourselves. We don't need to have SWAT. So I told the dispatcher, okay, just have SWAT stand by now. Like, don't have them come out yet.
All right. At 2103, so this is now at 903, please read out what it says here.
563 GC need units to control PED traffic. That's the pedestrian traffic.
All right. A minute later, if you could read out this entry.
3x3, one subject confirmed 419 in hallway with 413 by them.
Okay, what does that mean?
3x-ray 3 is the call sign of the unit. One subject is confirmed dead in the hallway with a gun next to them.
All right. Looking at 2106, please read this entry.
3x need air to check balcony type covering on the west of residence.
All right. And then this last entry down here, what does this say?
3x put spotlight on garage.
What does that instruction signify?
Basically to illuminate, to use the spotlights on the police vehicles to illuminate the garage door.
Okay. I want to turn your attention to the next page of this exhibit. And the entry is 2112. If you can read this entry here.
K912 can see 4 side and 3 side, but not the 2 side.
Okay, what does that mean? What is K912?
K9 is the K9 unit, the units with the dogs, and 12 is his call sign in that unit.
All right. So what does 4 side, 3 side, and 2 side mean?
The SWAT guys are going to kill me. It basically each side of a home has a number. So, like for example, the front of the home is a 1,
okay.
The left side's a 2, the backyard's a 3, and it goes clockwise, I believe.
So under this entry, the K9 unit is indicating it can see the 4 side, which would be the back part of the house, right? If the 1 is the front,
right,
the 4 is the back. It says it can see the 3 side, correct?
Yes.
And the 2 side.
Yes.
It's not indicating the front side, correct?
Not from this, no.
Okay. What's the next entry say at 2113?
C13, Larry Burns advised landline will call 548 on cell.
All right. So who's Larry Burns at this time?
Larry Burns was the SWAT commander.
Okay. And he advised on the landline he'll call for 548, so calling you?
Yes.
On a cell. At 2113, what does this entry say?
It says units trying door.
All right. 2115, 2 minutes later, we have another K912 entry. What does it say here?
A lot of toys in backyard, unknown if juveniles live at the residence.
Okay, it says have
grandkids. They have grandkids, but none live in the residence.
All right. So again, a K9 unit is reporting things being seen in a backyard.
Yes.
All right. At 2117, two minutes later after that, what's it say here?
It says doors opening.
Okay, and then the next entry says?
Body in garage.
All right. And then at 2119, what's it saying?
K98, subject in garage is 419. 2118, 583 GC, interior cleared, 2118.
Okay, so the K98 is another K9 unit, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Subject is in a garage, is indicated 419. I think you said 419 meant what?
Dead.
All right. What does the 2118 58 GC int clear 2118? What's that?
The 2118 is the time,
Okay.
and then 583 GC is
The unit.
the 500 is the unit. Yeah, it's a sergeant. GC is if I remember, it's gang crimes. So it was a
Okay.
gang crime sergeant.
Okay. And they're saying interior clear.
Yes.
Okay, so at 2118, it appears there's an entry into the garage according to this catalog unit.
Yes.
All right. Are there any other units other than 583 GC and the K98 being reported as being in this garage according to this entry
No.
in the catalog? 1 minute later, at 2120, if you can read this notation.
AMR advised of delay.
What does AMR stand for?
AMR is American Medical Rescue, or it's basically the paramedics.
Okay, so they're being advised of delay.
Yes.
At 2121, could you please indicate what it says there?
3X3 request medical.
All right.
2121.
And then the next entry down 2 minutes later, what does it say here?
It says 3X garage to rear of residence not cleared.
Okay. In the backyard, was there a shed?
I don't know. I didn't go in the back.
Okay. All right. So you're not sure exactly what that's referencing, but 3X, meaning it's an officer, is indicating, hey, there's a garage to the rear of the residence that's not being cleared.
Correct.
Okay. I think here it says 3X Chan clear. What does Chan stand for?
Channel.
Okay, that's kind of radio frequencies, I guess.
Yeah. There was a code red on the channel, so that's just this repetitive beeping noise that goes out every 4 to 5 seconds. So when and that means nobody can talk on the radio unless you have to. So
Okay.
when they cleared the channel, they mean that it's basically you're free to talk on the radio.
Okay, at 2154, which is almost an hour and 10 minutes later, what is the entry here?
Via AM media is arrived.
Okay, so that's maybe media members are maybe showing up to the neighborhood.
Yeah, this is just indicating that somebody had sent the dispatcher a message over the computer and that the media was starting to arrive.
All right. This entry near the bottom at 2200, so that's going to be at approximately 10 o'clock at night. Please read out what it says here.
MC1 requested ID via landline. MC1 was connected directly to CS4 for ID request.
So ID, what does that stand for?
ID is short for our criminalistics, or CSI, as people know them as.
Okay, so that's when so MC1 is an officer that's there, correct?
Yeah, MC1 is the major crimes detective.
Okay, the most senior, right? Because he's number one.
He's number one,
right?
yeah,
The
so-
most senior crimes detective there. He's on the scene, and he is requesting that CSAs come out.
Yes.
Correct? At approximately 10 o'clock at night.
Yes.
At 10:02, can you read this entry here?
1002 will be FD Rescue 9 and Engine 9 that responded. Also AMR 5907 and 5931.
All right. What does that mean?
Those are the engine company from the fire department that responded. So they had Rescue 9 and Engine 9. So that basically means the Engine 9 is the big fire truck. The Rescue 9's their van, their paramedic van. And then AMR 5907 and 5931 are the two AMR units that responded.
All right. You have two more entries here at 2204 and 2205. You can just read those two out.
Okay. Left message for tips.
What is
And
TIPS?
It's the volunteer program, trauma intervention program. It's volunteers that respond to talk to family members or friends, survivors.
Okay, so it's kind of volunteers that help out at
Yes.
scenes. Okay, so they're being left a message, and then what's the next thing say?
710A, request medical for PR.
All right. At 2209, it's saying TIPS ENR. What does the ENR stand for?
That they're en route?
Okay, and also ER can also stand for that, correct?
Yes.
All right. ETA means what? Estimated time of arrival?
Yes.
At 22:15, there's this entry here, if you can read that out.
305, 3 PS 61, okay to let homeowners come in off of Rainbow and Rancho Santa Fe.
Okay, so typically, if you have a crime scene and it's nearby a major roadway, are there steps sometimes where you guys block off people coming in and out?
Yes.
All right, and this is a residential neighborhood?
Yes.
What's happening here in this instruction?
Basically, it looks like, per the lieutenant, it's okay to start letting homeowners come in, it looks like, off of one side of the street.
Okay, and this is about 2.5, I think it's about, it's at 10:15 at night, correct?
Yes.
Okay. At 23:03, there's an entry here. What is that saying?
548 request grave units to assist.
Because that's maybe what, a transition squad of another shift
Yes.
of patrol officers, things like that?
Yes.
And then at 23:10, what's it saying here?
3x3, call tips, they can leave per homicide.
All right. I have no further questions for this witness. I left it all.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
What time did you arrive on this call?
I'd have to look at the log. I don't know the exact minute, hour and minute.
Do you think looking at it would help refresh your
Yes.
recollection? Can I approach?
Sure.
I'm going to hand you what's already in. It's 3:25.
Okay.
Find your call sign and your time of arrival on in.
Let's see. 47. Looks like 8:58 is when the dispatcher indicated I arrived.
Okay. And how does the dispatcher get that info?
Usually we will announce over the air that we're arriving, or we'll hit the arrive button on our computer, or those are really the only two ways. Or she hears it through somebody else. Like if I don't announce or I don't hit the arrive button, which happens, then she'll either hear somebody, like she'll hear me on the radio giving directions. She says, "Oh, he's out there already." So she'll put two and two together and figure out that someone's there.
And just so the ladies and gentlemen of the jury understand how this computer-aided dispatch, this CAD report works, there's a 911 operator that fields a 911 call, right?
Yes.
And that individual has the ability to talk to the PR, the person reporting on the phone, correct?
Yes.
And they also have the ability to type into a computer all the line items that you see there, right?
Yes.
And those line items are then directed to first responders and secondary responders and specialized units within the field have access to that computer.
Yes.
You mentioned you hit your arrive button on your computer. You have a computer in your actual patrol car,
Yes.
right? And it has a keyboard so you can enter information,
Yes.
and it has a specific button that allows you to announce your arrival.
Yes.
Okay. You understand that as the dispatcher is taking in information from the person or persons reporting, that's entered into that system, right?
Yes.
So you would agree with me that there's more information coming in probably than goes out into the CAD, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you also agree with me that there's a number of line items there that don't have extensive verbiage, just kind of call signs and either a 4-letter code or a 400 code or a unit response that you recognize as part of your job at Metro, right?
Yes.
And the prosecutor just kind of read you the more detailed ones that were typed in, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can I retrieve that, Judge?
Sure.
Thank you, sir. So you indicated that you arrived at 20:58, right?
Yes.
So if the call came in at 20:44, how many minutes is that?
14.
Okay. And even assuming if the call came in at 20:45, you get there 13 minutes later, right?
Yes.
You're not the first unit on scene.
No.
There's a number of units on scene.
Yes.
And those include marked patrol vehicles,
Yes.
some of them with one person per car.
These, if I remember, they were all single man units, or single officer units.
So there's at least 3 or 4 people there when you get there.
Without looking at the log, probably at least 2.
Okay. And they're out of their cars already?
Yes.
Have they approached the house already?
No, I don't know. I don't remember where they were when I initially arrived. Typically, somebody would have approached the home just to kind of watch the front door.
You have access to the information that's being relayed by the dispatcher through the CAD system, right?
Yes.
You do not have access to the call that's happening between the person reporting and the 911 operator, right?
Yes.
The 911 operator would choose what to put in this CAD report.
Yes.
Do you remember when the prosecutor asked you the question, about a garage door? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Do you remember what that question was?
Was the garage door open or closed?
Do you remember when the prosecutor asked you about the person reporting requesting medical? Do you remember that?
Yes. Towards the end, yes.
No, I'm talking about early on in the call. Do you remember that?
No, I don't. Which one are you talking about? Like, who was requesting medical? The officer?
Let me show you this.
Okay.
Ask first about the garage. Okay. Do you see it? 2052 mail advice to open door. You see that?
2052. You might. Is it down at the bottom? I can't read it on here. Okay, there it is. Yes. Mail advice to open door.
Okay. Do you know which door that's referring to?
Probably the garage door. It's the only door that was closed.
Okay. Do you see a 2047 medical advice for wife?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Requesting to be transferred to medical for advice on wife. I'm guessing that they're transferring the person calling to somebody at the fire department or AMR so they can give them CPR instructions.
Right. When someone calls 911, they say, do you need police, fire, or medical, right?
Yes.
And oftentimes they'll need both. Agreed?
Agreed.
So when the 911 operator is originally taking the call, she may enter under the computer-aided dispatch system items related to a police intervention, right?
Yes.
And then at some point, and in fact we can see it here in black and white, the person recording requests to be transferred for medical advice, right?
I would say yes.
Okay. And the ladies and gentlemen of the jury have had the benefit of listening to this call. Have you?
No.
Okay. So you don't know what's being said in that call,
Correct.
even as you sit here today, right?
Correct.
You'd agree with me the contents of that call would speak for themselves, yes?
Yes.
Okay. You can't tell anything from the CAD, for instance, whether or not the person reporting, in this case it's a guy by the name of Tom Randolph, that he actually asks, should I go open the garage door so they can come in? You don't know that, do you?
No.
Does it show anywhere on that CAD report where the medical advisor on the other end of that 911 call tells him not to?
No.
What you do know is when you get there 14 minutes or so after the call, there's other units on scene, right?
Yes.
Somebody goes in the residence initially to make a determination that the female subject, the gunshot wound victim, isn't responsive, right?
Well, the way you just said it, nobody would have gone in the house immediately.
Yeah, I'm not talking about immediately. Clearly, you didn't get there for quite a period of time. When you do arrive,
Right.
somebody goes in the house, right?
Correct.
And they identify the female suspect isn't moving.
Yes.
And then you say, hold on, let's back out, right?
Yes.
And then you request SWAT.
Yes.
SWAT means?
So the special weapons and tactics. It's the tactical team.
Right. Those people have specialized training to enter and clear a scene in a dynamic shooting sequence, right?
Yes.
So like if there's something dangerous, they can go in, they have specialized training that allows them to make sure everything's safe before other people come in and investigate, right?
Yes.
How long is it that you're outside before the lieutenant says, no, we can go ahead and go in?
Not very long. Without looking at the actual numbers, I'd be guessing. But maybe less than 10 minutes. It wasn't that I had requested SWAT, And it was just a matter of minutes before he says, we can do this ourselves. We don't need SWAT.
Yep. The first entrance to the house involves 4 patrol officers, right?
I'm guessing. I don't remember exactly how many of us went in.
Okay. Well, you said on direct examination it was 4. You wouldn't dispute that, would you?
I'm guessing it was 4. I don't remember the exact number.
Okay. Then they come out, right?
Yes.
Then you request SWAT, correct?
Yes.
Then the lieutenant says, no, we can clear the house, right?
Yes.
And then the house is cleared.
Yes.
By how many officers?
I don't know. I know it was K-9, and like I said, I wasn't there to see who actually went in or how many went in.
You're listening to Dark Vows, the Trial of Thomas Randolph. There's more raw courtroom drama ahead as we bring you unfiltered audio from trial. Join us as we navigate the testimonies, the tension, and the truth behind the headlines. Press subscribe now so you don't miss a minute. More Dark Vows, the Trial of Thomas Randolph, next.